Oh, fuck.
One, live.
And welcome to the Industry 4 Community Podcast. I am your host with the most, Walker D. Reynolds. The podcast, this unscheduled podcast for Friday, August 2nd, 2024, is sponsored by the Prov It conference, February 18th to the 20th, 2025. 35 vendor sponsors, 500 to 750 attendees, 3 days. Every single vendor sponsor is going to be integrating into the same virtual factory, the same unified namespace, in a first of its kind industry conference where we are asking vendors to prove it. So huge thank you to the conference for sponsoring. Obviously, I got a little influence there into getting them to sponsor the podcast, but hey, we're golden. So real quick, Zach, give me how you doing, and then I'll kind of tell everybody what we're doing here.
I'm doing good. I'm curious. What are you the host with the most of, though?
I am, interesting story. So remember when we were, I spoke. So for the audience here, earlier this week, I gave a keynote address at the Foundry
American Foundry
Society, right? And which is the national conference, the national association for like the foundry industry. So all things foundry. So that could be people in the jewelry industry, that could be people in aerospace. Basically, if you're using a foundry to heat metals, measure metallurgy, cast parts, that's the foundry industry. And I gave a keynote address there earlier this week, and we shot the night before. The team and I, we got together, and one of the guys on the team, Noah and I, and then Stephanie, who's one of our account managers, and Zack, we were just kind of shooting the shit in the hotel lobby, and we were talking about I'm a sociologist. I was talking about a conversation I had with the CIO on my flight out to Milwaukee. So I don't know if she was on the flight to Chicago, or no, she was on my flight to New York before I flew to Chicago. Or no, actually, she was on the flight to Milwaukee. So she was the chief information officer for one of the Northwestern states in the United States. And we were talking about digital transformation. We were talking about the governor is a former software developer, and like they're really trying to push digital transformation. We had this big, long conversation. Anyway, we start having this organic conversation at the hotel in the lobby, and it turned into this whole sociological discussion about relationships and success and all this kind of stuff. Fast forward, host with the most, you were saying. Honestly, I don't know what I'm the host of the most of, but it just sounds good. But somebody said to me the other day, actually, I got a text message last night from someone who told me, you really ought to do a podcast on relationships, like on being successful in relationships in the modern day, right? Because I talk a lot about relationships and love and dynamics and men and women and, all the kind of the general rules if you want to be successful. And they sent me this message. They're like, you really ought to do a podcast on that. And I'm like, a completely separate podcast. I'm like, my goodness, could you? I hate being on camera. The last thing in the world I need is another situation where I'm on camera. But, I do it because obviously I feel like I have a responsibility to. I'm good on camera, even if I don't like it. All right. So the purpose of this podcast, for those of you, we're going to go over a few things. Like we basically called this quickly because I think the announcements are timely. Number one, I want to go over PTC's earning call from July 31st. I want to read between the lines. I'm going to read the statements of the CEO at PTC. Been doing a lot of research over the last couple of days, and I just kind of want to go over what are the signs that are coming out of that earnings call. Number two, I'm going to go over Prov It, kind of give you guys the timeline. We've secured nearly all of the sponsors. There's only a couple of bronze sponsors left. So if there's integrators out there or vendors who want to be a part of Prov It, you can be a bronze sponsor. Zack, correct me if I'm wrong. The bronze sponsors, they don't actually go on stage. They're going to do Prov It at their booth only, right? They're not going on stage and presenting.
Correct.
Okay. So if you want one of the bronze sponsorships, you will still work with us on a functional specification. You will still do a Prov It session, but you're going to do it only at your booth. And the reason why is we just don't have enough time to get. We wanted to be able to have at least 35 to 40 vendors there, and there's no way to get 35 to 40 vendors on stage for 45 minutes at a time in 3 days. So essentially, title sponsor, gold sponsor, silver sponsors, they'll all be on stage, and that fills up the stage schedule. And then all the bronze sponsors will do their presentations at their booths.
The trade floor is going to be insane. I mean, it's going to be like EDC. It's going to be like Woodstock for industry.
We're going to go over UNS handbook. So I did the first post on my LinkedIn, the first article that contains the introduction to the UNS handbook. I'm going to talk about what that release schedule looks like over the coming months. Then I'm going to talk about some workshops that we're doing forward. But the meat of this is an industry discussion that we wanted to pull in here. Sorry, everyone, that we just did this off the cuff, but I wanted to start with PTC's earnings call. Okay. So I got it fucking inundated. Okay. So Rick Bellotta did a post on LinkedIn talking about, hey, good thing, things are good while they last. And essentially he basically said, hey, it looks like they're moving ThingWorx into maintenance mode and Kepware into maintenance mode. And they're obviously moving towards sunsetting. He has since deleted that post, but there was a huge discussion in Discord, and I made some phone calls, talked to some people, read the earnings transcript. I'm actually going to read the transcript of just the CEO of Neil Barua's report on the earnings call, which was a couple days ago. And then I'm going to read between the lines for you. I'm going to tell you what it says. I have made some calls to some industry insiders to kind of, hey, where's PTC going? But Zach, go ahead.
Remind me so Rick sold Lighthammer to SAP, but remind me of his involvement with ThingWorx, or was
correct?
He created ThingWorx, sold to PTC, or
so Rick is a brilliant software developer. He's an Ivy Leaguer. He's fucking gifted as all hell. Serial entrepreneur. Rick's first, I don't want to say his first foray, but his real first. Hello, everybody. His first really successful. Hey, Rick's on here right now. That I got a couple of responses last night, Rick, and I'll tell you kind of what they've told me. I'm assuming it's probably the same thing they're going to tell you. By the way, you weren't that far off. They're most certainly unhappy with what you said, but what you said is not what they want everyone to know publicly. But I mean, I did talk to a bunch of people internally, and it's not that far off.
It's on the earnings call.
Yeah, it's not that far off. I mean, I'll tell you what they want their official message to be, and then I'll tell you where I think what's actually happening. Okay. And again, it's my opinion. All right. So, but it is based on interactions I've had I was up late last night talking to people, trying to get the inside scoop. All right. So Rick's obviously on here. He can tell you his backstory, but I'll say that, Rick is a serial entrepreneur, world-class software developer. He's one of the few people in the world who has a proven track record of building platforms for industry. I mean, he's basically a 3-time winner or more than that. But what he's really known for is Lighthammer, which ultimately got purchased by SAP, Lighthammer really became the core of their SAP middleware, MII. Then he
product manager at Wonderware.
Right. Then he went to Wonderware and oversaw the development of system platform, actually was integral in the development of system platform. So you guys will remember you had separate Wonderware products, InTouch. When you went from InTouch version 9 to system platform version 10, that was really where essentially, InTouch became a subset of a much larger system platform within the Galaxy infrastructure. Rick oversaw all that stuff. And then Rick worked on the development of ThingWorx for PTC. Okay. So, Rick knows his shit. I mean, it's just like, it's so funny to me to watch, Rick trolls people. I think it's funny as hell, but it blows my mind that there are people who don't listen to what Rick has to say. I mean, it's literally, there's now all he does is invest in companies. I honestly, the only other person who seems to know all the same shit I know about the development of companies that are coming up and is Rick, honestly. And there's a lot of times where he's turning me on to products I haven't even fucking heard of yet. They're literally in their seed round, and he's aware. So I strongly encourage you to follow Rick, and I strongly encourage you to listen to what it is he has to say, because he knows his shit, and he's got relationships with everybody. Go ahead.
Where on the spectrum of mercenary to values based do you think Rick falls?
I don't know what Rick's values are, but I've never asked him. He's one of the few people I work with where I haven't said directly, what do you believe? But what I do know is that my judgment of Rick is based on what he does with his money. What he does with his money is he puts his money where his mouth is, and he invests in the products that I think they're going to give a return, but he's also investing in the products that he believes will sustain digital transformation across all of industry, not build more and more data silos. And in fact, he's a huge advocate for, open and functional based software. So, I mean, fuck, what the hell people complain about? It blows my mind. All right. Well, we're going to read Neil's statements. I want to talk about a little bit about PTC. For those of you who don't, my relationship with PTC, I hate PTC. Okay. Here's why I hate PTC. I made my judgment on PTC on three things. Number one, PTC is your classic company that wants to control the message. Number two, PTC can't get their head out of their ass when it comes to their pricing. Okay. And I saw that with ThingWorx. Nothing drove me fucking crazier. I work with 100 companies. All 100 companies are receiving overtures from PTC about ThingWorx. When they were trying to sell ThingWorx as a platform for solving problems in 2015, 16, 17, 18. PTC said a lot of shit that wasn't true about ThingWorx. Now, it could have been wishful thinking when they were marketing it, but they said a lot of things that weren't true. Okay. And it really misled clients. I don't know if they misled them on purpose. I think based on their roadmap, maybe they thought what they were promising was going to deliver. But I saw with my own eyes, they were saying ThingWorx could do things it couldn't do. Okay. But the biggest issue that I've had with PTC is on pricing. I literally had clients. Okay. I had clients who were being charged 1/100th, customer B being charged 1/100th per user for their PTC infrastructure versus customer A. And when you looked at scale, the difference may have been 1,000 users versus 10,000 users. So we're not talking yes, for the record, Rick was long gone by then, but you had customers for ThingWorx, the ThingWorx platform specifically, who they were being charged N per user for their ThingWorx license.
Was that actually how they build it? Was per user?
Well, they did it. I mean, honestly, if I'm being honest, let me be totally transparent.
Like tranches?
Let's compare. Okay, all of you who are frustrated with HiveMQ pricing, right? What's the number one complaint about HiveMQ? Right? The
pricing is variable.
It's like, we don't know what the pricing is. We can't calculate total cost of ownership. HiveMQ's got an incredible platform. I love their platform. The promises they make, they can deliver on. The only complaint anyone has about HiveMQ legitimately is the pricing is a fucking nightmare. How much does it cost? I am Walker Reynolds. I have a huge platform. Everyone knows if I'm bitching about your platform, people are gonna ask questions, and if I say something good about it, they're gonna take a look at it. And I can't get a straight answer on pricing for HiveMQ. I traveled all the way to Germany. I traveled to operations calling last year. Okay, I'm digressing here, but this is an important point. I traveled to operations calling in Boston last year, and I spent 45 minutes talking to the folks at HiveMQ about pricing. Okay, they had the new guy there, and he's like, hey, I'm going to change everything. Pricing's going to make a lot of sense. And then it didn't change. I go to Hanover Messy, and I ask HiveMQ the exact same questions about pricing, and I get the same fucking answer.
Investors are pushing that.
Who knows? Who knows why pricing is weird? Yeah, I honestly think here's what I think. I think in general, when a platform is relatively new, you don't want to charge too much, and you also don't want to get taken for, right? You want to be, and by the way, Michael Dowdell will tell you the same shit I got to say about HiveMQ. We've had tons of conversations about this. Hello, Michael Dowdell from Mexico. Michael Dowdell and I have had a whole conversations about the frustrations with HiveMQ's pricing. But HiveMQ is a wonderful, incredible fucking platform. The only thing they have to fix, in my estimation, is pricing. It needs to be transparent. It needs to be easier to calculate. You got to be able to calculate total cost of ownership. By the way, Dominic will tell you the same fucking thing. Dominic, who is the CTO there, he will tell you, hey, we've got to get pricing figured out because, and I want to defend software developers here. When you write a piece of software, it is really hard to tell how much you should charge for it. Like you want to make sure you're not overcharging. You want to be fair. Nobody's like, hey, I want to screw everybody. Well, at least no one I ever talk to says I want to screw everyone. And then, but you also don't want to get taken for, because imagine you start selling it too low. And then you realize, holy shit, we have to double our pricing in order to stay in business. You don't want to make that mistake. You want to be really close to where that is. It's hard to do that. In business, it is hard to get the number right.
You know what? The other thing the other trend I'm seeing in industry, I mentioned this on the accelerator call this week, and then I want to ask you a question about our pricing. I want
to answer the PTC thing, and then ask me that question.
Okay. But there's like historically, their go-to-market motion was all sales driven. Big, expensive sales teams with business development reps that would set appointments for your account executives, and you have senior account executives, and you'd have this whole expensive go-to-market motion, and that causes you have to sell your software a lot more expensive. We're seeing a trend to more product-driven growth and product-led growth, where maybe you're not building this whole platform, but you're taking like a piece of one platform. Like let's say you have a data ops platform. You're like, hey, I want to just this is an expensive platform. I just want to create one little piece of it and sell it for 1/10 the price, and then just have that be land and expand. And so we're seeing a trend, not just in industrial, but primarily like in SaaS, you're seeing this downstream motion where it's more product-led growth, where you can sell it, you can be profitable selling it for cheaper.
Right. And that's why land and expand works. Okay. And by the way, I agree with you, Michael Dowdell, that he's saying with respect to HiveMQ, reach out to Matthew Doling. Things seem to be getting better with his team. I'm not arguing they're not getting better, but the problem isn't fixed. That's all I'm saying. And by the way, let me say this, I love HiveMQ. I love their product. I love their people. I'm not saying don't use their platform. What I'm saying is, if I were to come on here and say HiveMQ's got great pricing, no one would fucking listen to me. Like everybody would be like, he doesn't know what he's talking about, because anybody who tries to go get a quote.
So how are they going to answer? How long did this take and how much did it cost?
I mean, anyone who tries to get a quote, most people are going to be very frustrated. By the way, I'm not saying anything here I have not said to HiveMQ directly to their face multiple times. They recognize that they have to figure it out. The reason they haven't figured it out is not because they're trying to rip people off. It's because they're trying to figure out how to accurately price their product in the market. And they're trying not to have to make the change too many times. I'm giving you their PTC doesn't have that argument. Okay. PTC was charging some customers N per user and some customers N divided by 100. Like my own clients. And when I would call PTC and challenge them on it, they, until I didn't have a huge platform back then. So they would just tell me to fuck off. I mean, for legit, they would tell me to fuck off. Actually say, fuck off, click. Not metaphorically, okay? So I don't like PTC. I work with PTC because I love Kepware. When they made the acquisition of Kepware in 2018, I was invited to Portland, Maine, to review a new product that came out by PTC called manufacturing apps. Zack's supposed to be on another podcast. That's what that alarm's for. So
how'd you know? How'd you know?
So I go to Maine to look at the OT nerd. Sorry, Vaughn, bring that up.
That's Zack Eater, I believe.
Yeah, I brought this up yesterday to my leadership, and more or less was told I didn't know what I was talking about. Industry needs more transparency and better leadership. You were literally told that you didn't know what you were talking about, Zack? Like that you brought up the pricing thing and you were told you didn't know what you were talking about? You're working for the wrong company then, if that's true.
It's one of the big multinational defense type companies.
Yeah, but let me say this. On the PTC thing, I went to Portland and I reviewed, they came out with a product called manufacturing apps, which was supposed to be like an extension of ThingWorks that was going to be, think of it as simple MES running in the cloud. And they wanted me to give it was basically 3 sub modules: production monitor, blah, 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 operations monitor. I don't know what the other one was, maintenance monitor or whatever. They were grouped together in this thing called manufacturing apps. They want me to take a look at it and give them my feedback. And the first thing I'm thinking is, well, why is Kepware asking me to do this? Why is it Kepware who's asking me to come to Portland to review manufacturing apps for PTC? Like, why isn't it PTC who's asking me to review it, right? So I go and I have great relationships with folks at Kepware. I absolutely love the fucking platform. It is still the best OPC server built on the planet, and they still make the best drivers of anyone, bar none. Okay, so I realized what PTC was trying to do in that moment. Literally standing in the room, I realized what actually happened. PTC acquired Kepware because PTC had some solution they wanted to take to the edge. Okay, I literally said to everybody in the room, oh, I just figured it out. PTC's got something in their roadmap where they want to go to the edge with it. Because if you look at PTC's go-to-market strategy with ThingWorks, ThingWorks was actually a layer that sat on top of an existing infrastructure. So if you look at the most common implementation of ThingWorks, it's going to be Rockwell hardware on the edge, a local OSI Pi instance at the site level, an enterprise level OSI Pi instance where they're doing asset framework, then ThingWorks sitting on top of that. And the objects, the asset frames that you build inside of OSI Pi become thing objects that are consumed by ThingWorks, and then you visualize and blah, blah, blah. That was originally their stack. But then what they did was they said, we want to go to the edge with something. I don't know what it was. And they went, this is ThingWorks specifically, and they acquired Kepware so that they would immediately have connectivity on the edge. And then they made some investments in Kepware to have Kepware develop non-Windows based drivers. What is Kepware's blind spot? Right? Their drivers only run on Windows. And so they had been developing Linux based drivers because guess what? Edge compute. What is the number one operating system for edge compute on the plant floor? Is it Windows based machines or is it Linux? Are you running headless Linux installations on the edge or are you running Windows 10?
Probably Linux.
90%. I mean, fuck, I can't remember the last time I implemented a window. When is the last time you implemented a Windows device on the edge for just connect, collect? So for just the connect, collect prior to storage. Are you installing a
Windows 10 compact edition panel PC with Ignition Edge is the last time that I did that.
But why would you do that?
It was a pain in the ass.
What is the technology that's exploded over the last 36 months?
Docker container.
Docker. Is anybody here running Docker in a fucking Windows environment? And if you are, how well is that working out for you?
Fuck no.
Everybody, I mean, think about it.
Exactly, Gray. Yeah,
so
it was a pain in the ass.
So let's go over PTC's earnings call. We're just going to go over what the new CEO. So I'm going to read between the lines for you guys. So you have a new CEO who came in February this year, okay? And that's Neil Barua, all right? By all accounts, everyone I've talked to, Neil knows his shit, okay? He knows his shit. He's a good leader. He realizes that they have operational problems, and he pushes out their chief operating officer, okay? So that's part of this announcement. Bye-bye, chief operating officer. I'm taking over your job. Okay. He says all the nice things. Hey, I really appreciate your service. He's going to stay on as an advisor for me. No, he's not. He's going to hand off his responsibilities to you over the next 6 months. That's not advisement. You're probably going to kick him in the ass on the way out the door. All right. I'm going to read between the lines for you guys on this earnings call. All right. So Neil Barua, the chief executive officer, CEOs, they basically give an overview on every earnings call. So he says, thanks, Matt. In Q3, we again delivered solid constant currency ARR growth, up 12% year over year. What that means is their annual recurring revenue. So that is the licenses they sell to customers where they get them under a contract. That grew 12% year over year. Terrible number. In this market, that's not a good number. That's a bad number. Okay, that's too low. Okay, I would expect to see something in the 18 to 22% range. I don't know why the guidance wasn't that high, because if you are selling a product, if you've got a product everyone wants, and you are getting it in the hands of the people who need it to solve their own
It
problems,
should be growing.
yeah, we'll get Colby Clegg on here, and we'll ask Colby Clegg, the CEO of Inductive Automation, and we'll ask Colby what his year-over-year growth was. And by the way, his company's his platform is 22 years old. 22 years old. And we're going to ask him what his year-over-year growth is. And guess what? It isn't 12%, and it ain't lower. That's not a good number. All right. Demonstrating that our portfolio of products is resonating with customers. Says who? That low 12% number? All right.
That's just reselling to your existing customers through expansions.
Correct. Our Q3 free cash flow growth was also solid, rising 29% year over year. Christian will take you through the quarterly results. Before we get into more detail, I want to recognize the guy that I fired, Mike Dutilio. He didn't say the guy that I fired, who will transition out of the president and chief operating officer roles at the end of the fiscal year and continue as an advisor to me into 2025. Mike's part in PTC's success has been profound over his tenure of more than 25 years. We certainly wouldn't be the company we are today without him. In addition, he's been a great partner to me as I've stepped into the CEO role. Let's put it this way. Neil comes in as CEO in February, and within 5 months, he's decided he's pushing the president and COO out. What does that tell you? Okay. I'll tell you this. What it tells you is that in the last 5 months, either he and Mike didn't see eye to eye. Okay. That means Neil has a different vision than Mike does, or he discovered Mike sucks at his job. But based on my experiences with PTC, it's certainly the latter. Okay. Because PTC had people told me to fuck off when I pushed them. All right. And I'll tell you this. I would tell my employees, you could tell a client to fuck off, but they better be wrong. The client better be wrong if you're going to do that. I mean, they better be doing
someone better clip this, because I'm going to need to use it one day.
It better be egregious. You know what I mean? All right. So he says, we've been discussing his future plans, and we both agree that it's the right time to start this transition process. When we start fiscal 25, we'll no longer have the COO position within our leadership structure. At this stage of my tenure, my approach is to be close to the business and be more directly involved with operations and execution, especially for our key priorities. Accordingly, I will be assuming many of Mike's responsibilities. Translation: Mike was doing a terrible job. He didn't have a succession plan, which means Mike had no plan to leave. He's leaving because the CEO is pushing him out. Okay, he had no plan to leave. There was no succession plan. He was doing a shitty job, and Neil needs to redefine what that role is. That's why he's taking it over as a CEO. As a CEO of 50 companies, that's your translation. All right. Additionally, I'd like to reiterate what I said on last quarter's call, which is that I'm turning over lots of stones and looking at everything in this company in order to usher in a new phase of focus and effectiveness across the entire company. Translation. Translation. Things ain't good, and we're trying to find solutions to the problems. That's what that translation is. And the analysts, by the way, you can tell in PTC stock price. Okay, go ahead and look at their stock price since this earnings call. Okay, you can tell the analysts know exactly what he's saying. All right. To that end, while Mike's change was externally visible because we filed an 8K, there are numerous other changes that we've already made and are making across many different areas of the organization. It's an ongoing process that we're doing with the intent of driving more effectiveness in the pursuit of our incredible growth potential. Let's move now to slide 4, which highlights our product portfolio and strategy. What it means is we are hemorrhaging dollars. Okay. I don't see what our future is yet. The current leadership has been doing nothing. Give me the last major announcement out of ThingWorks.
Oh my God, their PE is 71.
Correct.
Oh yes. My, Tesla's ain't even that.
So let's put in perspective.
This is not financial advice, but do you think it's worth $20 billion?
I won't comment on. Let me say this. Let me answer that. Let me answer the question this way. Okay. Do you need PTC to digitally transform? Do you need to use a PTC product to digitally transform? Must.
People are saying it's higher in the stack. They're focusing more on PLM and CAD.
Yeah, Windchill and native integration with CAD and all that kind of stuff. Guess what? The market, Bill Leiden, the market isn't ready for that. Why? Because the digital fluency of the average manufacturer is really low. Hey, the digital maturity of the average manufacturer isn't high enough for you to go. They want to go closed loop from PLM to the plant floor back up. Okay, you have to digitally transform in order to be able to do that. And digital transformation requires a digital infrastructure, a full stack digital infrastructure that is semantically organized. All events are captured. Okay, non-deterministic, open architecture, edge-driven, report by exception, lightweight. The average manufacturer doesn't have that. The average manufacturer across the 10 industry 4 pillars, on a scale of 1 to 5, 7 of the 10 pillars, they have a score. The mean score is under a 3. Okay, so we know the market isn't ready. So if PTC's primary focus is PLM and CAD, closed loop PLM and CAD, then who the fuck are they selling to? A bunch of people who are not going to want their product in 24 to 36 months when they realize it's not closed loop because they don't have a digital infrastructure? All the promises that are made. I went to the PTC show last year. I know what they were promising with Windchill. In fact, I have a video of them doing the actual demo.
What about the AR?
The market, AR is long gone. Forget about it. Just
because that was a huge thing at the 2019 Rockwell Automation Fair we went to.
Yeah. I want to go to Rick. Mike is a very good guy by every measure. I wouldn't read too much into this. This is simply a new CEO setting up his own team, just like a new U.S. president sets up his own cabinet. I would agree with you there, Rick, and that's partly true, with the exception of PTC has done nothing for 5 years. The new CEO came in. Even you, Rick, I know this is you saving face on your relationships, okay? But even you acknowledge PTC has been doing fucking nothing. They have been doing nothing. They've been doing nothing with ThingWorx. They've been doing nothing with their platforms. Okay? Meanwhile, they're taking the money from the people who are using ThingWorx. They've done nothing with Kepware. When I say they've done nothing with Kepware, I mean they've done fucking nothing. They moved offices. That's what they did.
This is why
they acquired Kepware and then have done nothing with it. Okay? They've done nothing. PTC, I hope Neil is a better leader than the previous leadership because the previous leadership has been doing nothing. They were focused on sales. I would love to see an org chart. I would give anything to see just how big their fucking sales team is because there is no doubt that they are a sales organization. That is what PTC is.
And it's a very expensive way to go to market. And going to market doesn't really provide a lot of value to the end user. That's just wasted inefficiency.
But Rick, how can you say that? Mike is the chief operating officer and the president. Rick is saying agreed, but that's not on Mike, not one bit.
Where's the accountability?
He's presiding. The president is presiding. He is presiding over the growth of the company. The CEO, in theory, is establishing the strategy. Okay. And then the COO their job is to execute the strategy.
Rick,
correct?
If I was a customer support agent for PTC, I would be innovating. I would be trying to help drive solutions to do something. Now, again, not everyone's like me, but I probably wouldn't be a customer support agent for very long. But, it's called filling the vacuum.
All right, let's go to the next. Let's go to the next paragraph. I want to make sure I get through all this. So as a reminder, our 5 focus areas are 1, PLM, which is driven primarily by Windchill. 2, ALM, which is driven by Codebeamer. 3, SLM, which is primarily driven by ServiceMax, 4, CAD, which is primarily driven by Creo, and 5, our continued focus on SaaS, software as a service. These are the areas where we can create the greatest customer value and are the areas where we are focusing our resources and attention. At the most basic level, our customers need to introduce new products at a faster pace and with higher quality. It is not unusual to hear from customers that they need to shorten their new product introduction timelines in half. Okay. Shannon Looper was a customer service manager for ThingWorks.
And he's in our community. Case in point.
I would love to hear. All right. He goes, that's not possible without digital transformation across our customers' workflows, which is exactly what our products enable. How does ThingWorks enable digital transformation? If digital transformation is a strategy for making the data the primary commodity in your business, and ThingWorks is little more than a dashboarding tool. There's an answer. It's not a loaded question. There's actually an answer. How does PTC's products enable digital transformation the way Neil says it does? How does it enable digital transformation if digital transformation is a strategy for making data the primary commodity in your business? Which part of which part of PTC's offerings Yep, go ahead.
So like you got Edge, or we'll go at the bottom. So you got Edge, Kepware down there. You got Connect, Collect.
Yep.
And then I don't know if it really has anything in the store, but you got Visualize and Analyze at the higher end for ThingWorks.
So if ThingWorks is Visualize, Analyze. Okay. And then you got Find Patterns, report those patterns, solve, right? Report the problem, solve. Where in there did they mention, where does Kepware and ThingWorks fall in those 5 key priorities? So PLM, ALM, SLM, CAD, and SaaS.
They didn't even mention it.
Well, they're both, ideally they're SaaS, right? I mean, ideally ThingWorks is a software as a service and Kepware is software as a service. What in there is infrastructure? Digital infrastructure. What offering does PTC have that is digital infrastructure? Infrastructure is the omniscient, omnipresent fabric, data fabric in your business.
Was that their partnership with Rockwell?
Nothing.
Yeah.
The CEO of PTC doesn't know what digital transformation is. That's what I took away from that paragraph. He doesn't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
He doesn't know. I would love, here's the challenge. Neil Barua. I challenge you to a debate, a public debate. I'll pay for it. We'll live stream it. I'll even give you the 10 questions the moderator will ask us. I challenge you to a public debate on the future of digital in industry. Okay? And we'll ask some key questions. We'll debate key points. Okay? About infrastructure, about function, about value of digital for manufacturers. I'm going to fucking bury you. I'm going to fucking bury you. Your board of directors would have you fired the next day. He definitely has a different definition. I'll tell you what his definition is. His definition is digital thread. Shannon Looper. His definition of digital transformation is a threaded infrastructure. Because here's why, and let me be fair, because I don't think PTC makes garbage products. I think they make limited products that they try to oversell. That's what I think. Okay. The best product PTC owns is one they bought. I mean, even to this day, think about it. Kepware is 2.5 decades old, and it is still the best product PTC owns, and they don't even know it. They don't even know it. Because if you look at the digital maturity of manufacturers, where they fall, the most important product to them to start is data acquisition and data operation. They don't have a data operations tool. Now, you can make the argument there's parts of ThingWorks where when you generate a thing, that's data operations, but it's not the core function.
But it's only operations for within the ThingWorks platform.
Within the ThingWorks platform. Here's the debate. We could do this debate. is PTC's strategy for providing digital solutions, go open? The answer is no. And same thing with OSI Pi. OSI Pi's strategy is not to go open. They want to go open with the partners. They don't want to go open with the yes. Well, I mean, here, why do I, you think about it. I was hard on Litmus, not necessarily publicly, but I was hard on Litmus internally behind the scenes, and Vatzel came in and engaged directly. He engaged directly because why? Because he knew that he could provide the pudding that was the proof.
And you gave Vatzel some very good advice
Correct.
earlier this spring.
All right. So let's go to this. It also secures the quality, consistency, and traceability of product-related data, ensuring that the data is up to date, accessible, reliable, and actionable. With the digital thread, the right data is delivered to the right people at the right time and in the right context across the value chain. The demand drivers for our core offerings are strong, and our differentiated capabilities to drive digital thread initiatives are increasingly important to our customers. There is so much we can do to help our customers drive better business outcomes. Let me say this. If you go to a company and that company's CEO says that it's not possible, or what we offer secures the quality, consistency, and traceability of product-related data, ensuring that data is up to date, accessible, reliable, and actionable. With the digital thread, the right data is delivered to the right people at the right time in the right context across the value chain. That is wrong. Okay. This is, in fact, let's debate that one sentence, Neil. Your position is that with the digital thread, the right data is delivered to the right people at the right time and in the right context across the value chain. I'm going to say, no, it is not. Here's why. Because you don't have what we refer to as an additive data infrastructure. That is where all layers of the stack can produce and consume to the same information and data models. That isn't what PTC does.
Have you seen this?
What?
Vaughn, you could put it up on the screen. This is where the digital thread came from. Rob Tiffany posted this. Data collection, data analysts, except it's upside down. But you remember how you're saying the digital thread, you're threading it up to the top, and then you're unlocking value out of the top, the digital thread.
But this does not work. This does not work.
So Rob even agreed. He smiled.
Yeah, digital thread does not work. It will work for a specific use case, but it's not going to work as a digital infrastructure. Like, I can create a thread that is a function for my business. That thread could be something like, I want to create a function that consumes telemetry data from the edge. Where each of the data points, each of the parameters that I'm consuming are a parameter in a recipe that is tied directly to a bill of materials that is tied to a quality specification that I can measure against the outcome of the products I produce. And I can use digital thread to consume that telemetry data. And it's an object. I can shape them as an object. I can go, this is going to be recipe analysis. And I can consume those parameters and then monitor the real-time telemetry data to compare real-time with what the recipe should be. And then I can do some analysis and I could push back a result in that same object. That's digital thread. Digital thread is the way you write software in general. You have a back end, you have an API, and you have a front end. You create a data model inside of your back end. You write an API that is designed to extract that data model and parse that data model. And then you have a UI layer that is designed to consume that data model. But it all starts with the data model that is in the back end. That's the object.
Model view controller.
Correct. All digital thread was try to take software and lay that onto industrial infrastructure. And no fucking wonder it didn't work. Because what was the gap? What's the mistake?
The mistake is of the plant floor.
The mistake is you don't have 1,000 people. You have one DBA who's in charge of data models. You have 1,000 people on the plant floor all putting their hands in. You got vendors coming in and dropping new assets on the plant floor. There is no way to maintain a consistent model. Hell, a pump is not a pump is not a pump. A motor is not a motor is not a motor. Digital thread assumes that all motors are the same. It assumes all pumps are the same. All valves are the same. Correct. Yasir. I would expect Yasir's statement here. Yasir specializes in data operations, taking unlike models and making them like, right? They're in the middle. Yasir builds a product that fixes all the fucking problems with digital thread. Well, not all of them, all the data problems. All right. So my point is this. Is if you read Neil's comments, it's we've been operating wrong and we're getting rid of the guy who's been driving the bus. Okay. Number 2, we are going to focus, our core priorities are going to be not on digital platform, so not on IoT platform, and not on edge connectivity. And there's no mention. Okay. There's no mention. We are going to focus on PLM. We're going to focus on closed loop PLM. And we're going to lay the framework for artificial intelligence and machine learning products. Okay, that's what he says in his statements.
They're going AI, and
we're going to do that.
Infrastructure.
We're going to do that under a digital thread philosophy. That's his statement.
It's only going to work for high value targets.
So here's the interesting thing in his statements here. He doesn't talk about ThingWorx or Kepware as important to their future.
That's what Rick said.
Right. He talks about them as they're fundamental to what our present is, but he doesn't talk about them in the context of the future. Okay. And I reached out to some people at PTC proper and at some of their, smaller organizations, and asked them, hey, where's PTC going? And off the record, they're like, hey, off the record, we're going in a completely different direction. We're going in a totally different direction. And so I don't think Rick was wrong yesterday. Do I believe that ThingWorx and Kepware are going into maintenance mode? Absolutely, 100%.
Why did he delete it then?
Well, you have to ask them. But I don't want to put him on blast because there are times where I delete something because it's not core to what I said, but there was a statement.
I deleted a post the other day too.
Right.
It happens.
It had nothing to do with it. There's times where I delete a post and it has nothing to do with the core of what I said, but there's a thing I included. I don't want.
Yeah, it gets misconstrued.
Correct.
That happened the other day with a post I did. So.
Shannon said, when I was there, the focus of IoT was to get telemetry data from the devices in the field and merge it with the precise CAD data for that device, digital twin. I guess my frustration here's ultimately my frustration. This PTC's earnings call is a classic example of a OEM vendor starting with an outcome that they're looking for and working their way back to a product that they want to try and sell, instead of starting with the problem they're trying to solve and working their way back onto the solution for the customer. AI and ML are must and just marketing words. I'm starting to be allergic to them. It's really simple. Sai Prakash, real simple. Every time someone says AI or ML, I want you to ask them this question. What is artificial intelligence? What is machine learning? How are they the same? And how are they different? Okay. Bless me.
Walker's, they should sell off ThingWorx, or they should sell off Kepware.
They absolutely should sell off Kepware.
And I know who I think should buy it, but
they should sell it to Litmus.
Okay, I didn't know if you wanted to share that. That was the advice you gave.
Litmus. I'm going to say it publicly.
You're driving up the price now.
I'm going to say it publicly.
Kepware. Don't buy Kepware.
Litmus Automation should buy Kepware. Let me say it again.
That's your opinion?
Litmus Automation should buy Kepware.
I think that'd be incredible.
Say it one more time. Batzel, are you listening? Litmus should buy Kepware. You know who else? You know who else might be a good customer? Is Google.
Oh,
Google would be another, especially with what they've done with MDE.
Oh God, Yeah.
What they've done with MDV and Google Cortex Framework,
They would be
Google
getting a
would be
lot of
another
data.
option.
They would be getting a lot of data.
But I'll say this. I work with a lot of connectivity platforms, right? I mean, by the way, I had a conversation with a CEO the other day, a private DM, so I don't want to. Siemens should buy Litmus. What? First off, Siemens can't buy Litmus. Siemens cannot buy Litmus.
Oh yeah, because Vatzel made the promise that he's not going to sell. So
yeah, first off, Litmus can't sell for 5 years, and Google has Litmus. Yes, all Google Edge is Litmus, but Litmus should buy Kepware,
and Google should use HiByte.
Yes. What if Microsoft bought it? What if Microsoft bought Kepware? I mean, I'll answer that two ways. From a strategic perspective, I think it would be a really smart acquisition if I'm Microsoft. I mean, that's good for Microsoft. It's bad for Kepware. Because I strongly encourage you guys to go visit Kepware in Portland, Maine. And everything.
Oh, that's
Sam Elsner. Ignition should buy Litmus. Man,
that's Sam. That's
it's Sam from Kepware.
Kepware.
I encourage you to go to Portland, Maine, and go visit the folks at Kepware. I really encourage you to do that. One of the things that will stand out to you is how problem focused they are. Like when I go and visit them, they are not talking to me on how to sell their product, or they're not asking me any questions like that. Every fucking question they ask me it's a technical question. Like they have brilliant, like Sam Elsner, who just commented there. Sam is one of the most brilliant. No bullshit. Sam is one of the most brilliant dudes I've ever come across in my entire career.
We were out at dinner getting drinks, and we were still talking about how to make the product better.
Right. The folks at Kepware are focused on problems. Like, and it's not, they're not focused. They realize that if they have the solution to the problem, it sells itself. Like it's, so the problem would be if Microsoft bought Kepware, that isn't how Microsoft thinks. Microsoft is a sales organization. They make some good products and stuff. I don't want to bash them that bad. Yes, Microsoft would ruin Kepware. But Litmus would be a perfect acquisition. Because there's a lot of things that Kepware has that Litmus doesn't have.
Why would HiByte ever buy Kepware when they fucking built Kepware? They're the team that built Kepware.
Yeah, it's the product leadership that's the issue. Rick is absolutely 1000% right. And I'll say this, Abby's awesome. So Abby's one of the leaders. She's a kind of the cross between PTC and Kepware, and she could run any of my fucking companies. I'd hire her in a heartbeat. I mean, she knows her shit. That whole the leadership group is the issue is not Kepware. PTC is the issue. And I strongly encourage you, if you're in the Northeast or whatever, you get a chance to go to Portland and visit Kepware, you should go and look at how problem focused they are. Like they're going nowhere. I'm telling you right now, they're going nowhere because it is really, really hard to create that. Litmus would benefit from ThingWorx more than Kepware.
Interesting.
I mean, I would. I'm not going to debate. I mean, is JP right there? I mean, it's really close. Here's why.
Grafana is the front end,
right?
Kinda?
You're basically replacing Grafana with the ThingWorx front end. I mean, ThingWorx is a really, really powerful dashboarding tool. ThingWorx is. But
Rick, can I share why you deleted the post? He shared it in the Discord.
Yeah, I mean,
he said, I almost always delete those posts after the impact has been maximized. The ball is now squarely in PTC's court to make a public statement regarding the future of ThingWorx and Kepware. Note that this isn't something just started. Been asking about it for 2 years. So let me go to court.
Let me go to Chica. I want the HiByte Kepware thing. Here's the perfect marriage. Okay, hear me out here. Here's the perfect marriage. Tulip, HiByte, Kepware. It's the perfect marriage. And guess what? They're all within like 4 hours of each other. Tulip's in Boston, outside of Boston. Highbite and Kepware are both in Portland, Maine. The three of them, because you could take, if you look at what Tulip is doing with generative AI, doesn't Litmus have an app builder? They do, but it's the best way. That's a good question, Sam. But if you think about it, low barrier to entry, like Tulip does, or Litmus does a good job of low barrier to entry for like proof of concept. But as you scale, there's almost like this added effort in scaling. And there is no real easy way to do graphical development, UI development. There's no easy way. Like, by the way, Grafana is not an easy way of building dashboards. I mean, and what's the obvious missing component in Grafana? You're not doing any control. It's designed to, it's really designed to consume result sets from databases. Like, you're not doing control. I mean, so I would argue that the Tulip, Highbite, Kepware marriage would be a phenomenal marriage. Phenomenal. Like, when I introduced Tulip and the Highbite folks, they had like a strategic partnership together. Like, all I did was get them in the same room together, and they did all the talking. I didn't say a fucking word.
Speaking of getting a lot of the vendors in the same room together, I mean,
yeah,
could be seeing a lot of action happening at Prove It next year.
I would say this. I want to put a bow on the PTC thing.
Let's do it.
You know, Rick was right. Like, when Rick originally did his post, I was up late last night doing my homework here. I was going to do this podcast next week. And I was like, fuck, we really need to talk about it now. This is huge news. Like, none of the analysts are going to say this. You know, none of the analysts are going to report what they're seeing between the lines, but you see it in the results after the earnings call. Right? The way the stock moved after the earnings call, a lot of people obviously had these conversations behind closed doors about what it means. What was Neil actually saying? Zachary Stank, this is a complete divergence of topics, but it's like to get to your general thoughts on the EU Cyber Resiliency Act and the effects it's going to have on digitalization. You'd like to. Is it you'd like to get my? Let me shoot it. Let me do that as a separate. I don't want it to get lost in this podcast. But Vaughn, please make sure I'll shoot that video over the weekend. All right, let's talk about real quick. I just want to go over a couple of things that are going to be really valuable to people. Number one, I did the initial post. The UNS handbook is being published in its entirety. Well, an edited version. My publisher required it be modified. So the UNS handbook is being published in its entirety to my LinkedIn. We are doing a post every week or two. Okay, so I'm releasing a chapter every week or two on my LinkedIn as an article. So over the next 16 to 24 weeks, the entire handbook will come out. All right. Number two, yes, the question was, will the handbook be available like on a GitHub repository? Yes, it will be available in a GitHub repository.
People also want to buy it on Amazon.
Right. It will also include demo code. So there's going to include like UNS simulators and a bunch of demo code in that GitHub repository with the handbook. All right. Number three, we are releasing the handbook and the GitHub repository in conjunction with a unified namespace workshop that we are doing later in the fall. So everybody who is in Mastermind, you get this workshop. This is part of your education. We're going to do it separate from the Mastermind sessions. It will be 3 or 4 sessions based on working through the handbook. Okay. So we will do a much more advanced integrations with UNS, specifically around like building functional namespaces for endpoints for specific data consumers. Okay. So how do I build a Google Cloud endpoint? How do I build an Azure endpoint? In fact, I had a client, or not a client, but a partner reach out late last night. They are having a problem with the IoT bridge, Cirrus Link's IoT bridge to Snowflake. And it's basically having to do with scale and parsing Spark-Plug-B and then being able to query these. I mean, we're talking millions and millions and millions of rows of data. And Cirrus Link, responded with, hey, there's a we have a bug. There's basically a bug that we have to fix in the next release that will make the storage of this data much more efficient, therefore the retrieval much more efficient. So that, because right now what's happening is you're inserting more rows than you can consume in the return. So for every, if a result set takes 5 seconds to return, but we're inserting the same number of rows every 3 seconds, you're never catching up, right? So part of what we're going to talk about in the UNS workshop is how to handle these huge. By the way, that's what I said, Rick. My first response was, they were like, we need a fix because we can't wait for the bug fix. And I said, well, there's a fix. Well, I'll work with you on it. And it's almost certainly going to be using HighByte. So, UNS workshop is happening this fall. I don't know when those guys will post everything. If you're not in Mastermind, you will be able to take the workshop, but but if you're in Mastermind, it's just included with you. Okay. We will be doing there's going to be a 1-hour intro to it. So I want to make, we're going to try the part of the workshop that doesn't require the most effort. So it'll take me 45 minutes to prep. We're going to do that. That'll be a public video. Okay. So then basically the foundation, how we do we only charge for the stuff that costs us a lot of money to produce. So we have to charge. I mean, we'll go broke if we don't. So
our pricing is fully transparent. That was what I was going to ask you earlier. Is like, how do you think about our pricing? There's no one who's paying 1/100th of what someone else is paying. Everyone's pretty much paying the same, unless it's like you're in a third world country.
Right. What we do is we modify pricing based on your currency. So if you're in, say Colombia, for example, or you're in Mexico, which is 1/20th, right? And you're not a US company operating in Mexico, but you're in Mexico, then we adjust your, based on the exchange rate. I mean, that's the only
enterprise license. We also have some enterprise customers that we're still trying to figure out the pricing. It's based on how many users, but yeah.
And then we do scholarships also. So the community will pay for a certain number of scholarships for people who cannot afford to be in Mastermind. Let me, one other thing, we're doing another workshop for end users. I'm just about done with that curriculum, and it's going to be how to recruit and retain the employee of the future, how to build a digital transformation team. Say you're a manufacturer. How is your org chart going to change? Who are the people you got to hire? How do you recruit and retain the people on that team? Like, what questions to ask in the interview? What should your compensation package look like? How is it you're going to get young people that you want on your team to come to your organization and stay there? We're doing a whole workshop, and I think that's 3 sessions as well. And that'll be specifically for end users on how to recruit and retain the employee of the future for manufacturers. How do I organize the team? What people do I have to hire? What expertise do I need to look for? What questions do I ask in the interview? How do we pay them? What kind of benefits are they going to be looking for? We're going to do a whole workshop on that piece. We're going to use a bunch of examples of companies that we've assisted on building their digital teams. Mentorship lifetime access is an excellent.
It was too good. It was too good. Actually, we've removed that. It's now people that are grandfathered in, and new people are on a monthly subscription because you're getting new value every month. So we had to go away with the lifetime access. But mentorship is incredibly affordable. It's like $97 a month.
Yeah. All right. One last thing. I want to go over the Prov It conference. What's happening between now and February 18th to the 20th? Okay. So we have secured basically the only sponsorships that are left are bronze sponsorships. I want to answer I got a shit ton of questions about the EU. So you guys saw the announcement where we decided, hey, we're not going to do the EU this year. All right. I want to answer, how do you attract IT professionals to work on the shop floor? I'll actually answer that question as soon as I say this. All right. We decided not to do the EU because there was no way that we could provide the same quality in the EU we were going to provide in the United States. Okay. And what we didn't want was somebody to be at the EU and, there was just no way. There was no way in 6 months for us to pull it off. And our director, the director of the conference, she told me, hey, with the teams as they are, with everything that is right now, we can't do this successfully in the European Union. We cannot do it this year. She's the only person on the team who has successfully done events of this size and scale, and she's done it multiple times. So she knows what it takes. We have to defer to her. And so when she told me it can't be done, I went back to the teams there. And by the way, it was a big heated debate, and there were people like, hey, we can do this. And I'm like, listen, it can't be done. There's no way I'm allowing us to deliver a subpar product. There's no, we're literally, go ahead. Go ahead, Zach.
And I mean, and the feedback we're getting has all been positive. You know, everyone said this is a good idea. I'm more excited for the US conference now. They were going to miss out on meeting you alone. Like, a lot of people want to come meet you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they would have missed out on that alone, you know? And that's enough for them to want to come. So
there's going to be enough wonderful people there that meeting me will not be important. But Tomasz Vindonia, is there anything more we need to say or know about Prov It EU chapter besides formal cancellation note? No, I would say this. This is a tentative thing. We're just kind of throwing the idea around. We are going to possibly do a live watch party in the EU. We may send somebody there. Maybe we'll do it in Germany. So, but
no promises,
you know,
but it's
we're just throwing the idea around. All of our effort is on the US show, which is going to be ridiculous. All right, here's
everyone who comes to the US show will get to meet everyone else who comes to the US show. So we're not fragmenting our audience. So it's going to be it's going to be like the Woodstock of Industry 4, you know?
Something that's very important. Okay. We are announcing all of the vendor sponsors that's coming out. 4.0 Solutions does the post. I think Prov It does it. And I comment on some of them, okay, wherever they pop up. It is very important, if you are going to come to Prov It, that you are fluent in the solutions that these vendors have. Like, in order for you to get the most out of the conference, you need to research these companies. You need to research what they are offering. We are announcing a new vendor every day. So we have all the vendors there. We have a release schedule. The title sponsor, Dell Smart Manufacturing, they had one whole week all to themselves, and then everybody else gets a day. So there's a post and then all day long. And that gives everybody time each day to go and research their offerings. Okay. It's very important that everyone is fluent in all the vendors and what they provide for digital transformation, because otherwise you're not going to get the most out of the show if you don't do that. Here's the other thing we're doing. I am currently working on the infrastructure architecture. So I will have that design completely done by mid-September. Okay. So between now and mid-September, we are announcing all the vendors and vendor sponsors. We are working with those vendor sponsors on the infrastructure. Like, for example, HiveMQ is part of our infrastructure. Dell Smart Manufacturing is part of our infrastructure. What I mean by infrastructure is they're part of the foundation upon which all the other vendors are going to be connected into. Okay. Yes, today, Cirrus Link and Inductive Automation's announcement went out. Let me just say this. When you see the list of vendors, they are a who's who of Industry 4.
It's the EDC. These are the headliners. These are the bangers, you know?
Yeah. And Colby Clegg reached out to me from Inductive Automation and told me that he plans on being at the show. So he plans on coming out with the team. Travis Cox, I know, is going to be he's going to be doing part of the build. Arlen Nipper from Cirrus Link will be doing part of the. I mean, it's a who's who. Like, if you guys want to see everybody in Industry 4, they are going to be at this show. I mean, it's the way, you know, as you more and more as you look, it's and right now
Jeff Winter is going to be there.
Yes, Jeff Winter will be there. I'm fairly certain. Jeff has tentatively agreed. So Amy Williams. So we're looking at Amy Williams and Jeff Winter and myself will be emceeing in between sessions. So there'll be a 15-minute break in between each Prov It session. And one of the three of us is going to go up on stage and we are going to facilitate a Q&A. We're going to ask one question and have a conversation from the audience while everyone's getting drinks and using the restroom and the next vendor is prepping. So bronze sponsors, yes, are still open, Zach. I don't know how many. It's only a couple are remaining. And we have, but all the title, gold, and silvers are all full and have been full for, like, we filled all the sponsorship. We added the bronze sponsorships because we ran out of, the other sponsorships all filled up immediately. I mean, tickets are more than 60% of the tickets purchased are end users. About little under 30% are systems integrators, and then 10% is other. Okay, so
And
you
35% sold out. So if you don't have your ticket yet, go get your Prove It ticket, proveitconference.com. Tickets are $9.97, and you can apply for an end user discount.
Yeah, we're way ahead of schedule. All right, so through mid-September, we'll be finalizing infrastructure. I actually have a series of videos going out to the sponsors, what to expect, and all this stuff. We'll do our vendor meeting. Starting when I get back from Shaw Classic at the end of August, we are going to meet with all the vendors to start working on functional specifications. We will release the functional specifications to the vendors third week in October. From third week in October through the middle of January, we will be I'll tell you, Tomash, I'll tell you what the fees are. Well, I tell you basically, I don't know the exact numbers.
Bronze is $7,500.
Yeah. I mean, it's the vendor sponsors are supporting the show. I mean, they are paying. I put up $650,000 of my own money to make this happen. And the vendors, the model of the show is the vendors are covering our costs, the ticket sales that we sell. So when we sell to an end user, we're not making any money on that ticket sale. They're paying their cost. That's what an end user is paying, what they cost. All of the systems integrators and the vendors, they're paying a 50% margin. We've estimated how much they cost, and they're paying 50% over their cost. The money generated from the ticket sales goes to the down payment on next year's show. Like, we're making no profit or anything. We're literally breaking even and passing it on to the show. We're actually going to make the Prove It conference a not-for-profit 501c3 after this year. So we will be releasing everyone's functional specifications through social media one at a time. So we will do, here's the functional spec for this company. Here's the functional spec. Everyone will get to see what the functional specs are before you actually get to the show. Sai, do you have an evaluation for your vendor sponsors to be at Prove It? Yes. We did not accept every vendor who reached out. If they didn't meet minimum technical requirements, that is, they couldn't integrate into a unified namespace, they weren't somehow supporting digital transformation. We have a virtual factory that is an actual manufacturing facility. We're recording a facility for 7 days, and we built a virtual factory based on a real plant. And then all we did was obfuscate the data. They're going to be integrating into a real facility, and they're going to be solving real problems for that customer. And that customer is actually going to be at the show. They just won't know they're there. Well, everybody knows now, but they won't know who they are. And the customer will be there to be able to see, hey, this is an end user, a manufacturer. They'll be able to see, oh, this is how I use unified analytics framework from Flow Software. This is how I would use it in my plant, right? So that's the concept. So we got a lot going on over the next 6 months before the show. All right, with that, any other comments, questions, concerns, anything I need to answer?
Let's wrap this up. Did you mention, you said you were going to address the how do you attract IT professionals to work on the shop floor? That's a good one.
How do you attract IT professionals to work on the plant floor? Really simple. Okay. By the time someone moves into IT and they get used to the security and compliance philosophy, it's pretty hard to move them to the plant floor. Okay. So what you're looking for is you are looking for service-based IT professionals to bring to the plant floor. So there's a core philosophy in IT. Am I security and compliance, or am I a service organization? Is my job you can only pick one. You can't be both. Right? So
you can either be DEI or you can be merit-based. You can't be both.
Right. You can't be both, right? So you that doesn't mean that you throw security and compliance out the window. It's just that you're doing security compliance under the philosophy of being a service-based organization.
First,
if you're a security and compliance organization, say you're the military, you can't be a service-based organization because you are a security and compliance organization. You can do security and compliance under being a service-based organization. The most advanced companies are service-focused in IT. How do you get
AWS.
IT? Yeah, how do you get IT people on the plant floor? You find the people who have the service philosophy. So what you have to do is frame your questions, and we'll do this in the workshop for the end users. We're going to talk about the questions you should ask IT professionals when you're interviewing them. Make sure you include these in your matrix when you're doing the interviews. So that, and these answers equal these types of personalities. And these are the type of people you should be equipping to your team. So the answer to your question is, Cy, look for the service-based philosophy. Okay. So the person, you're looking for the person who never says no. You're looking for the person who believes that there's a solution to every problem and that it's their duty as an IT professional to find it. Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right. With that, thank you guys for jumping on. It was really important that we had this conversation. Like, subscribe, comment down below. We will see you in the next one.